brought to you by Knights of Awakening. This is the Labyrinth. Today we're going to take a look back actually, at the Gray Jedi Code. This is our follow-up episode. I want to thank you all for joining us. If you're listening, you probably are connected to the Jedi Path or the community in some way, either through knowing me, or through following my work, or the greater community as a whole. And a few years back, I did a video on the Gray Jedi Code, and I recently seen the images for that old code popping up again, and I was kind of shocked. You know, this was something from a long time ago, back when most of our programs looked something like this. Something more along the lines of radio style. And who knows, I may go back to this with images and start doing my shows like this instead of the live video presentations. I think maybe that would hit people a little bit better, maybe do a little bit something more for them. But we'll see what you think after this one. So with that code, my interpretations of it got some responses. Wow, did it get some responses. For the most part, they were negative. Most people felt if they adhered to that code, they felt that I was just being mean-spirited and didn't understand what it really meant. And I assure you, I understood what it meant. I understood what the author was trying to hit at. I just felt that it wasn't done very well. I've listened to that episode 2 or 3 times since then myself. Reposted it up on KOA. And honestly, I don't think I was too overly harsh, but when someone's gunning at your dogma, it's gonna feel harsh regardless. And I get that. And I won't apologize, but I will say that maybe I did need to take a more in-depth look at this code. One of the criticisms I seen, besides yo mama, that was enlightening and helpful to me in this was that it said they would have preferred if I would have given more ideas on how to correct this code or hit more on the issues with it and been more specific as to how it could be done better. A lot of people felt that I took a very negative stance on this. And honestly, I've grown both as a webcaster as well as a human being since those days. That was, 2014, give or take, when the video was released. It was one of KOA's first videos on YouTube. It was one of my first experiences with doing live video, and I tried to wrap it up the same way I did 10-minute radio segments. And I probably should have given it more depth and more time. I felt that a lot of things were obvious in it, but they probably weren't. So this episode is going to be the episode that should have come out instead of the one that did. I honestly believe a lot of the press that we got for that episode had more to do with fans of Star Wars and fans of the fictional Jedi just by what a lot of the responses were, and not so much real-world Jedi being upset at this. But prove me wrong. If this thing really was that popular because the Jedi are interested and wish to learn and grow and express and share, then I should see a similar hit count on this video here, as many people as interested to comment, and it should show itself that it wasn't just a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? I believe the term is butthurt fans of the code as a fictional reference for Star Wars or Star Wars role-playing games. So that said, let's take a look at the code that I tore into originally. I rewrote this in a text file to make this easier for me. Originally, the only place I'd ever seen it was on a meme with a figure holding 2 lightsabers, walking forward. It looked like something out of Assassin's Creed, honestly, but I don't know. There is no dark side nor light side. There is only the Force. I will do what I must to keep the balance. The balance is what keeps me together. There is no good without evil, but evil must not be allowed to flourish. There is passion yet emotion, serenity yet peace, chaos yet order. I am the wielder of the flame, the protector of balance. I am the holder of the torch, lighting the way. I am the keeper of the flame, soldier of balance. I am a guardian of balance. I am a Gray Jedi. I've told you about my previous view. I think maybe my worst issue with this code is it sounds like a speech that Goku would give in a poor adaptation of Dragon Ball Z. I'm waiting for the last line to be like, I am a Super Saiyan or something like that. It really, it doesn't have a lot of rhythm to it, and that initially sets me off. and it doesn't express what I think they were aiming for. And I know a lot of people like it because it is very bold. What I'm going to give it is that it uses a lot of big and bold words, and it's got some empowering features to it. And I'm hoping when I'm done, I can give you something that's a little bit better. So, that said, a lot of people were defending this from a fictional aspect. This is not meant to be an attack on the Gray Jedi. I see the path as primarily one focusing on a mid-tone gray. What I mean by that is, I don't think Jedi themselves were supposed to be light. And I think this idea of a light side is kind of completely flawed. The movies never referenced a light side. Most forms of New Age understanding don't show a concept of light as in the polar opposite of dark, but instead as an understanding of the way the universe moves and the way it ebbs and flows, and that we ourselves make the change towards good over evil. In fact, the only references we have to sides in the Star Wars movies are good and evil. We have a reference to the good side from the bad, but we don't ever hear the good side referenced as light. It does reference the dark side, the movies that is, and the movies do reference it as a side of the Force that's resulted from extremes, especially extreme anger, extreme fear, or hatred. These were said to be the things that created the dark side and led to it. They were supposed to be dominant forces. Once you started working with them, they have control of you. Now, anyone who knows anything about psychology will agree that if you feed into anger, you're going to get more anger. And that it is unwise to some degree to not be able to find balance internally. So, the Jedi, from what I have seen, always sought balance emotionally, seeking the middle ground, especially in states of conflict. In the movies, they were portrayed as seeking that center. They could enjoy themselves, they could have a good time, they smile, they laugh. But they recognize that extremes which could control them are dangerous because the Jedi themselves are wielders of the Force. So, what can we do then? Is there nothing we can do with this code to make it better? Well, I think there is. I think we need to look at it, tear it apart. I'll hit on my issues with each line of it, or if I have no issues, I'll say that. And then I'm going to reconstruct a new code for you and see what you, the viewer, the listener, thinks about this. I really got to say also, it feels kind of good to be off camera for a change. I've got a face for radio, I really do. And I'm loving just having this on audio where I know I can just clean up the soundtrack and I can sit here in my air conditioning and it's not gonna, be that bad. So you may see a few more videos come out like this. So with this, let's start with first lines. There is no dark nor light side. There is only the Force. I don't really have an issue with this. The community kind of figured this out forever ago. And it's even something shown within almost all of the expanded universe books. And it's also hit on even in canon Star Wars with characters like Mace Windu, who recognize that he can utilize those stronger emotions, but he's always got to keep a check that he himself is not giving in to them. They're not controlling him, he is controlling them, so that he himself does not fall to his dark side. The next line, I will do what I must to keep the balance. This one I'm not so good on. The Force does not need balance. It does that itself. The Star Wars movies are really all about a set of mistakes made on the idea of a chosen one who would bring balance to the Force. And this balance was supposed to be this idea of peace and harmony. And it was coming from the idea of emotional balance to a Force that was somehow emotionally unbalanced thanks to the efforts of the Sith. In this respect, the movies themselves kind of set the Sith out as ones who seek to create emotional and physical upheaval for change or for their own good purposes or evil purposes, for their own benefit. And the Jedi are ones who seek balance within themselves and within the world of those extremes in emotion. But the Force itself doesn't need balanced, nor does the universe. It tends to handle that itself over time. So Not a real big fan of that line. The balance is what keeps me together. This is not a bad line, actually. In retrospect, I was a little upset at the way people were taking this code and how they were really not looking at these other parts, and I may have been a bit harsh on this in the last video, but this line requires a better build-up. Perhaps it would be better if they said that they seek balance within, or something to that degree. There is no good without evil, but evil must not be allowed to flourish. If the Gray Jedi are morally obtuse, presuming we understand that the Force itself doesn't have sides, which this code kind of states, then what we're speaking on is moral obtuseness, which kind of negates the idea of good and evil. You may say that there is no good without evil, but life must continue to flourish, or something to that degree. But ultimately, this statement implies a very strong, good evil, and, Gray Jedi good, bad Jedi evil. And if the Gray Jedi are seeking to defend good and fight against evil, that's just normal Jedi activity. I don't think it needs to be put in the code in this way. And I think it's a line that just, it doesn't bring anything to it. The next I'm going to take is 3 pieces which are actually pulled from a different Jedi code and then reworked. There is passion, yet emotion, serenity, yet peace, and chaos, yet order. This ripoff kind of comes from a code that most Gray Jedi were using long before this, which is where it says emotion, yet peace. And instead it connects emotion and passion and serenity and peace, where you would expect there to be passion and emotion together, and serenity and peace together, and the only part that it leaves intact is chaos yet order. I don't think the person who wrote that really understood the core of why the original code worked. The idea that you're existing within a state of passion, yet a state of serenity, a state of emotion, yet a state of peace, and finding that middle ground with that peace in that state so that you can do good or great things. The concept is kind of there, but it's kind of butchered in this. And I really think if they'd have just left it the way it was, it'd have been fine. It might have even saved this whole code by giving it some connection to something a little bit more thought out. Now we get into the ones that really kind of mess with me, partially because, again, they're the big, boasting statements for a group that should be more understated. If Gray is not light, assuming that regular Jedi are light, which I don't ascribe to that concept at all, but assuming they are, the Gray Jedi should not necessarily be in your face, but we're going to have some in your face stuff here. It's very empowering, but again, it sounds like a speech out of anime. Balance, well, let's hit this first. I am the wielder of the flame, the protector of balance. Balance is the natural state of things. The Force moves to balance on its own, and it doesn't need it. And again, this is a subscription to sides, and we kind of hit that there were no sides to begin with. This really and truly could have been so much better. This may be because the community focuses on the idea of a light side, and if there was a member from the community who put this into play or had access to the Jedi community that exists, I could see that. And it may be that people like it because there is such a focus on this idea of light. When Jedi don't focus on being light, they focus on protecting life or society. It may be also because people naturally like to create sides, and the Force is sideless. Instead, Jedi should be protectors of life or society, or even harmony, the idea of things working together, but certainly not balance, not in the way that this is being expressed. Now we have, I am the holder of the torch, lighting the way. This is, again, very light-centered. It forces the code, no pun intended there, into being more of a light-sided code. Instead, it should be, I will guide the way for others, or I will be a guide for others along the way. That would be better, I think. But I am the holder of the torch, lighting the way. It really, we're putting the word light in there. Where's your darkness? Something like this should be counterbalanced if they are champions of balance. It's a very one-sided code for champions of balance. I really feel that this line could have been done better as I will be a guide for others along the way, or something to that degree. Now we get one of the ones that really hit me the hardest, and it's, I am the keeper of the flame, a soldier of balance. I think the problem I have here is, again, going to this balance. In a sideless force, there is no balance. The only side we've recognized in this code is good and evil. And I hope that isn't pointing... I hope this isn't pointing at that. You know, that they want to balance good and evil. So that, you know, for every good act, an evil one has to happen. Instead, this should be, I am the keeper of the flame of life. I am a soldier who protects the harmony of life, or something to that nature. This keeper of the flame, soldier of balance, I don't know, maybe it's the way it's said, but it sounds like someone wanting to pick a fight. And it really has this very light-centric view. I would almost say that this code would be a better light Jedi code based on some of this than it is a gray one. And if the light Jedi ever adopt it, I might actually be able to, if they're going to divide into light and dark and gray again, I might actually be able to agree with them adopting this. The next one is, I am a guardian of balance. Again, we're getting into this whole balancing. You gotta guard the balance. The balance is gonna be guarded. I don't think the balance needs guarded, and I don't think we are gonna guard the balance, as it were. Instead, make it simple. I am a guardian. The last line, I am a Gray Jedi. Honestly, this code, as I see it, Jedi are Jedi, and there shouldn't be a light, dark, or gray to it, and it should just say I am Jedi. But if the Gray Jedi have to make themselves different in some way, then maybe this was good on its own. Overall, this code has some good points, but it focuses a lot on the idea of dark and light, and balancing it while denying the existence of sides entirely. The result is it sits very wrong with me. It was very difficult looking at this code and not thinking of the mistakes that have been made in the community so many times, and the number of people that come in and they are certain they are champions of light and all of this other stuff, or champions of dark, or they know the balance and no one else does. It speaks to me in a negative way. A negative way that I think maybe a lot of people who don't have the experiences I do in the community probably wouldn't have seen it. I've been around for a long time now. I've been around since, I think, just after 2005 or 2006. And as a result, I see this happen all the time. People have got to be protectors of the balance instead of protectors of life. They're working on this vague idea so that they don't got to focus on the real problems. And they're doing a lot of dancing to get away from right action or doing good, and that always kind of sets with me wrong. But I'm a nice guy. Well, no, I'm not, but I try sometimes, and to that end, I've taken the time to rewrite this code a little bit for you. This is my rendition of that code, and then I'll tell you why I chose what I did. There is no dark side nor light side. Through emotion and peace, through passion and serenity, through chaos and order, there is only the Force. Through the Force, I will find balance. Through balance, I will oppose evil. Through wielding the flame of life, I will be a protector. Through holding the torch of knowledge, I will guide others. Through determination, I will protect the fire of life. I am a guardian. I am a Gray Jedi. This keeps the spirit of the idea that I think the author was trying to convey, while at the same time making it more precise. And what I've done, I start with the best line in the code. The first part, there is no dark side nor light side. And then I transition it through what I call the throughs. In this way, the code has a bit of internal harmony, but it also has its own uniqueness. Through emotion and peace is kind of the emotion yet peace line, same as through passion and serenity and through chaos and order. I did not hit on ignorance and knowledge because they are not simply polar opposites, but they are opposites that negate each other. If you have complete ignorance, you cannot have any level of knowledge at that point. And knowledge dispels ignorance, where peace and emotion can actually exist at the same time, because those are emotional states. And chaos and order can exist within the same time. But we have to hit on knowledge somewhere, so we hit on that later on. There is only the Force. I felt this was a very important line, and I felt it was better to hit the first set of throughs, through emotion and peace, and all of this, leading into the statement that there is only the Force. This completes this, showing that no matter what else you're dealing with, there is the Force. Through the Force, I will find balance. This is a different way of looking at it. Instead of looking to balance the Force, you're looking to balance yourself. You're looking to take that emotion, the peace, the passion, the serenity, and the chaos and order that is your life, and through the Force, through your hard work and effort, find balance within. Through balance, I will oppose evil. Once you find that center point within, you're no longer so emotional that you can't think straight and so peaceful that you don't move. Then you set your purpose in life to do what is right, to stand against evil, wherever it may be. Through wielding the flame of life, I will be a protector. This is all about the idea of the Force. This is saying that you are going to use the Force, the flame of life, to be a protector. That the power of a Jedi comes from the Force. And that is a core idea of the Jedi path. Through holding the torch of knowledge, I will guide others. I told you we'd hit on knowledge, and of the reconstructed lines that I've done here, the rebuilt, reimagined, this is one of my favorites, because holding the torch of knowledge means seeking knowledge and expressing it. And in this, your life will be a guide for others to do better. The next one is through determination, I will protect the fire of life. The word soldier implies a war zone, a battlefield, a trained military professional on some level. And not all, or even most, Jedi are, or even should be, soldiers. But instead, they should have determination. And that's what the word soldier referred to in the last code. So instead, I took the concept of determination, and Jedi should protect the fire of life. We should protect the continuance of life as best we can. We should do that knowing that it's going to be difficult, and there may be times we even make sacrifices. But that's part of walking the path. And your goal in every action should be to be a protector. Lastly, the next two lines are set down to solidify. I am a guardian. I am a Gray Jedi. In this way, whereas we'll say your so-called light Jedi focus on peace, overcoming emotion, and serenity, overcoming passion, and so on and so forth, this Jedi is focusing on protecting, guarding, opposing evil, and finding the balance within through the Force. This is the core of the Gray Jedi ideals as they've been explained to me from others, and it's the core of the Jedi ideals. It's simply we're slapping the word Gray on it. But if we gotta slap the word Gray on it, if Jedi has come to mean light Jedi, and I really hope that it is not, but if it has, then the Gray Jedi should be what the original Jedi were supposed to be. They should be guardians. I think that this code is a better version, and I hope that it reaches you out there in a positive way. I want to thank you for joining us, and thank you for your time on this. This video audio is at least twice the original runtime of my first look at the Gray Jedi Code. It has a lot more information in it, and I feel it explains my view better, but it also gives you something to work with in the community, and some things that maybe you can take out of this, whether you're gray, dark, light, or some other color Jedi that, I don't know about. Some other path within the Jedi path. As someone who walked the Jedi path for a long time, it's important to me to see this community still grow. And I recognize I was being harsh 3+ years ago. But I honest and truly believe that each and every one of you has the ability to do better than you were doing before. And this is my way of giving back. This is my way of helping out. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, you're not a Jedi, you have no right to speak on it. Well, I'm not a Chihuahua either, but I do make sure that my dog is doing okay. You don't always have to be a thing to help a thing. You don't always have to be in one group or another to help that group out. I support gay rights, but I'm not gay. I support women's rights, but I'm certainly not a woman. I may not be a Jedi, but I'm definitely an ally. And in that, I hope this was a little bit of help. Thank you always, and as always, awaken the night within.